It's time to expose some NFL defenses who have been living under false pretenses. These defenses have been fooling everyone into thinking they're half decent, but that stops today. Also, I guess whilst exposing defenses, it gives me a chance to redeem some defenses too. Let's take a look. The only way defenses should be ranked is by points allowed. The so-called number one defense that is always referred to is actually just the defense that allows the least yards. How can you argue yards are more important than points? Games are won by points, yards are measured for interest. That's got nothing to do with exposing these defenses though. I went into more detail than saying, hey look, this defense is first in yards but only fourth in points. Excellent voice there. Points per game is one thing, but it's still not a fair way to measure defenses individually. Time of possession. Now there's the most underrated statistic in the world. Now actually it can be massively misleading when you look at the leaders this year. Time of possession doesn't necessarily win games, it doesn't guarantee offensive success, but defenses live and die by it. And now I tried to look at average snap percentages for positions, but that number wasn't easily available. However, it was pretty clear that defensive players tend to play a higher percentage of total snaps than offensive players, apart from on the line, where the offensive players stick around longer and are the only guys next to quarterbacks and Glover Quinn to be on the field for 100% of all possible snaps. My point is simple. An offense wants to be on the field for as long as possible. They can control the pace, they control everything, can sub in and out when they want. Defenses are isolated out there and want to get off the field as quickly as possible. So what I've done is look at points allowed and at every team's time of possession, then reversed that to get their defensive time on the field and worked out how many points their defense gives up per minute that they are on the field. And the order changes. A lot. Time to expose the first defense. The Philadelphia Eagles are 13th in points allowed. Not bad, but they dropped 4 places once we looked at their points per minute. The Eagles allowed 0.785 points per minute, which is 17th. Eagles, you've been exposed. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers also dropped 3 places, allowing 0.798 points per minute. They say the Buccaneers' defense has improved recently, but today, they've been exposed. The Saints' defense already ranks pretty badly, and by pretty badly I mean 3rd worst in the league. However, once we look at their points per minute, they drop to worst in the league and allow 0.963 points per minute. Saints, you weren't even looked at too fondly to begin with, but still, you've been exposed. Now for the big time. Aren't the Dallas Cowboys just great? Their defense ranks 4th in points allowed, tied with the Broncos. Get out of town. The Cowboys actually rank 8th in points per minute. Their offense does the 2nd best job in the league, keeping them off the field, and rightly so, because when they're on the field, they give up 0.659 points per minute. Dallas Cowboys, how does it feel to be exposed? You might be interested to know the Broncos didn't budge, staying in 4th place, allowing 0.582 points per minute. Now I've done a good bit of exposing, time to flip the script and start doing some redeeming. These defenses have been falsely cast as not quite pulling their weight, but if they were kept off the field, they'd be much better. Let's start with the poor Cleveland Browns. They rank as the 2nd worst defense in the NFL, when they're actually just the 4th worst, allowing 0.88 points per minute, which is better than the Chargers, 49ers and Saints. Cleveland Browns, you've been redeemed. The Rams have been free-falling since week 5, which they entered at 3-1. The Rams defense has always been considered good, but they've been pretty bad too this year, coming in at 20th in the bottom half of the league. Redemption time. The Rams are actually in the top half of the league in points per minute, allowing 0.758. Rams, you have been redeemed. Greg Williams, you've got no chance. And that pretty much does it. As it stands right now, the Seahawks look like their 4-year streak of being the league's number 1 scoring defense might end with the Patriots currently in 1st place. If it's any consolation, they do still rank 1st in points per minute, 2 places above the Patriots and just ahead of the Giants by 0.002 points. Another way to look at defenses is through Pro Football Reference's expected points contributed analytic. That turns the whole thing on its head and is probably the most accurate representation of the league's best defenses. Now I'm going to flash the table up at the end so you can pause it and look at it, and there's a link to it in the description too, but here's a quick summary. The Broncos are in 1st place, being responsible for around 84 points on the season, which I assume means the obvious actual points scored by defensive touchdowns, but also turnovers which resulted in scores. The Cardinals climb 14 places from their points allowed ranking, contributing 20.68 points, and the largest jump by far are the San Diego Chargers, who contributed 2.81 points and climbed 21 places from being one of the worst scoring defenses in the league. The biggest drop is by the Detroit Lions, who go down 16 places, costing their team 89.48 points, and the Cowboys are all the way down in 18th place, dropping 13 places, costing their team 54.35 points. It's interesting to look at, and it makes an interesting point too. Points allowed doesn't tell the whole story if defense is responsible for more points than it gives up. Conversely, a defense might not allow too many points, but also does nothing to help put points on the board, and that does it with this video. I should have put a word point counter on here because I'm pretty sure I've said it at least 50 million times.